All right, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. The Bills getting ready to face off against the Colts, and we have our guests to have what they're saying in Indy. We welcome in Olivia Ray from Wish. She's a sports reporter. Mike Catalana. I'm Jenna Cottrell. All right, the Colts had a kind of slower start to the season, now at 500. We know these two teams met last year. The Bills getting the best of Indy in the playoffs. But Olivia, going into this weekend's matchup, what do you make of this Colts team as they kind of have clicked in these last couple of weeks?
Well, yesterday, Frank Reich, following the game, said, "It seems like we're out of the darkness now." It was one of the best quotes he's ever given. He said, we're back to surface level. We're at 500. I mean, they dug themselves in such a deep hole starting 0-3. I don't think that team should have started 0-3. Absolutely not. And then, of course, the Jaguars gave them a fit on Sunday, which Bills fans know too well because apparently Saxonville is back. I don't know where it came from in the last couple of weeks, but here we are. But the Colts are back to 500. I think everyone has kind of sighed a deep breath of relief here in Indy because this is where this team should be sitting right now. There's still hope when it comes to the playoff picture, kind of. I think they kind of control their own destiny now. They don't need a ton of help from anyone else. So everything feels a little bit normal here in Indy at the moment until they get to head to Buffalo, the same team that ended their season last year, of course.
Yeah, so a little extra motivation, I feel like there. But I guess what has made this team kind of be able to settle in, and what pieces have kind of made this team and allowed this team to really, put together and string together those wins?
We knew it was going to be a slow start with Carson Wentz. I mean, he had zero time in training camp. We saw 3 full days of him at training camp with all of his foot injuries and everything else. So we understood that it was going to be a slow start with this offense. They're finally clicking, and they're clicking well. Jonathan Taylor is a madman, and everyone knows that. He's becoming a household name quickly. And this Colts defense, I've been slammed by anyone I gave fantasy football advice to this year because I said, if you're going to take anyone, take the Colts defense, take the Colts defense. And they did not show up here until recently. So I understand they're taking the ball away, but it's different when you're sitting at the bottom half of the league and in passing yards, rushing yards, first downs. I think they're finally climbing up in what DVOA. They're sitting around the middle of the pack, I think around 10 or 11 finally. And I think the thing that stood out to me this week was the pair of young pass rushers that the Colts drafted this year. They're finally coming into their own, which is going to be key going down the stretch here. Kwity Paye got his first sack. Dio Abdango got his first half sack and forced the game-winning fumble against the Jaguars. So that's been really exciting. Kwity Paye had 0 sacks in his first 0 quarterback hits, 0 pressures in his first 5 games. Over the last 2, he's had 18 pressures, 5 quarterback hits, and finally got his first sack. So he's figuring it out. He said the game is slowing down for him. And I feel like the Colts are peaking at the right time, right? That's what we always say is the teams that peak at the right time can finish out the year correctly. And I hope that's what is happening here in Indy.
Olivia, let's go back to Carson Wentz. You guys have a relationship with him at your station. You guys see him. You do reports with him each week. As a player, you watch him. You know the talent's there. But let's be honest, with Carson, he'll make great plays, and he makes 1 or 2 wacky Wentz plays every week. Do you guys just anticipate it? Does everybody just sort of wait for it? Because it happens.
Yes, and it happened in this past Sunday too, where he threw the ball with his left hand twice. He is not ambidextrous. I don't know what goes through his mind. We actually asked Coach Reich about it on Monday, saying how do you feel about those when he is throwing the ball with his left hand? How do you feel? And he said, well, I don't like it, but I understand that it's instinctive, right, for a playmaker. And I think that's what goes through Wentz's head. I don't want to try and understand what goes through his mind on some of those plays, but I think he's just so determined to make a play. And I think the thing that is clicking here in Indy is the Colts are allowing him to be himself, and they're giving him a little bit longer leash than maybe he had in Philly, and he's protecting the football really well, extremely well right now here in Indianapolis. He's barely turned it over.
Yeah. What's interesting about that is, when he was in Philly, he had Frank there with him. He had Reich with him, and obviously he was responding to the way Frank coaches. And, he's lost some of that over the last few years in Philly, and he's gotten a lot of it back. But you see the talent there. And I was thinking in terms of last year's playoffs when you had Phillip Rivers. Now, you've been around two pretty interesting guys at quarterback. Similarities and differences between Phillip Rivers as a player in person and what you see in Carson Wentz the same way.
As a person, the two are actually really similar. And I think that has a lot to do with, top down from the Colts organization, because a lot of the players are very similar in that aspect. They're very faith-based. They rely on their faith when they have a bad game. And I think that helps them stay out of that dark place. But I loved Phillip Rivers' trash talking. I did so many stories on it. And Carson does not do that. Carson's... I don't know if he's ever cursed before in his life. He's very straight-laced, but he's a great guy. I know Indy's actually kind of falling for him after they were a little undecided when it first broke that Carson was coming here.
I was going to say, I was curious, what the reception has been by fans to Carson Wentz and him, settling. I say settling in, but like you mentioned, I felt like when he got there was the injury and then kind of working his way in. Where are fans at now with Carson Wentz?
I think they've accepted him. However, anytime he starts throwing a shovel pass, I feel like it happens in slow motion and Twitter erupts. They're like, stop this, stop with the shovel pass and stop throwing it to the other team when you're doing that. Let's not call that play at the goal line anymore, Carson. No, I think Indy is really falling for him. He's well received at this point in the season at the halfway mark, completely different from when the season started. And they weren't willing to accept that it was going to be a slow start. I mean, the man had no training camp with this team. It was going to take time to find a chemistry with his receivers, and it's finally all happening.
And then we talk more about the offense, like Jonathan Taylor. I mean, you mentioned it. He has been so incredibly good for this team. What allows him to just be that guy and be such a huge piece of that offense?
I don't understand what clicked maybe over the last, it started happening, I think, around week 10 last year as well. And since then, he's never looked back. But people doubted his ability to be the bell cow here in Indy just because of the workload he had at Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. The people in Indy were familiar with that because this is Big Ten country. So I think everyone was skeptical of is he going to still be able to carry the football? I mean, the man broke every record at Wisconsin. He always had the ball in his hands. But it's just been incredible to watch him turn on the jets because the Colts put up the speed as he breaks free. And I mean, he hits 22 miles per hour every time, but he's not satisfied with it. He said he wants to hit 23, which we're like, okay, sure. Casual Jonathan. He's a great guy though. He's really likable, and it's just been tremendous to see what he's doing. His family's in the stands every week, which is really great. And his dad just couldn't be prouder of what he's been able to do. And I don't think anyone saw it coming that he was going to be the next Derrick Henry, but here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, and Derrick Henry, blew up the Bills when they played there on that Monday night game. Mm. And, right now, I think, obviously, Taylor's the best back in the league. I mean, he's right there with Henry, and Henry is out. You mentioned Carson working with the wide receivers. He seems to have a really good rapport with Michael Pittman. And now T.Y. Hilton, I think he had limited snaps last week. Is he expected to be back more full this week going into Buffalo?
Yeah, T.Y. Hilton did start this last week. It was his 32nd birthday. That was only his third game here with the Colts. He's had quad, calf, shoulder, concussion protocol. Everyone knows that he's getting up there in age, and he is starting. The injuries keep him out for longer periods of time. He will. I'm assuming as of right now that he will play again this Sunday. But right now, Michael Pittman Jr. is wide receiver 1. That sophomore class is standing out on the offense. And Carson said he just trusts Pittman. We talked about it with him after the game on Sunday. He said, I trust that if I throw the ball up, he's going to come down with it. And I don't know that he has that trust with T.Y. Hilton at this point. And unfortunately, I just don't think T.Y. Hilton has that breakaway speed anymore that he used to have.
You mentioned the fans, knowing that it might be a little bit of a rougher start. And then, now this team with Frank, who's done it before, off rough starts and getting them to where they are. What are the expectations? I mean, it's hard to speak for a whole fan base, but this team was a playoff team last year. They did change quarterbacks, but right now, 5-5. I know the Titans have been really good, but what do you believe that the Colts fan base expectation is now going the rest of the season? Is this a playoff team?
I think everyone close to the team believes that this is a playoff team. I don't know that we all believe that it can happen until maybe this week. As I said, the Colts do control their own destiny now. They don't have to rely on everyone else losing, and then a couple of teams down the stretch are going to take care of themselves. However, everyone knows that this week is crucial for the Colts, and if they can't beat a playoff team or a team above 500, it's obviously not going to happen. And at this point in the year, the Colts haven't beat a team that's above 500, and they haven't beat a team that was in the playoffs last year. So they've only taken care of the bottom feeders at this point. So until they beat someone with a decent record that had decent expectations going to the season, I don't think the fan base fully believes that there's going to be a postseason for this team.
Well, I was going to ask about that. What is the vibe around this game for Indy fans? Because the Bills are about a touchdown favorite going into this. And a lot of people in Western New York are saying, I'm kind of surprised by that. This is a Colts team that we've seen kind of play in really tight games. We know the talent that they have. I'm just curious, what are the vibes in Indy about this Colts team coming into Buffalo?
I believe I was out on an interview when the first line came out, and I said, they're only a touchdown dog, and that was the vibe. Actually, the people I was with the high school football team, and they said only a touchdown dog. So, which kind of shocked me that people don't have belief in this team that took Buffalo down to the wire last year in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. I think everyone, like I said, is just really undecided since they haven't beat a team that they weren't supposed to beat. And I think they keep forgetting that, they almost took down Baltimore. They gave Titans a run for the money both times. So, however, Frank did reference in his Monday media press conference several times that he feels a lot right now like that 2018 year when the Colts were in a hole and they made a run down the stretch. And he said, when I woke up on Monday, I felt like I did in 2018. So maybe there's a little magic there from Reich to give this team another run, especially heading back to Buffalo. We know that's special for him.
Oh, very true. Very much true. We thank you so much for joining us, Olivia. Where is someplace that we can go if people want to follow you on Twitter or see and follow you some of your work?
Absolutely. My Twitter handle is at Olivia Ray Wish, WISH. We will be giving you lots of Carson Wentz baby updates this week. As you said, Wentz is our player analyst, and there's another little Wentz in the world, another baby girl. So lots of fun news here in Indy this week as the Colts get ready to head to Buffalo. They're back to 500, a little bit of optimism here in this city. For the time being until they head to Buffalo and face Josh Allen, I'm assuming.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We always appreciate it. Olivia Ray. For Mike Catalana, I'm Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the Buffalo Plus channel. Thank you so much for watching here on YouTube.